Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including Final Space, which we'll be getting into right now. I'm Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
April Collins.
Hi there.
And Alex Bonilla.
Okay.
Yeah, sad mooncake for this this epic season 2 finale of Final Space, the sixth key, which came out to aired tonight on Adult Swim. We've been talking Final Space Season 2 every week here at the Overly Animated Podcast. Find us at overlyanimated.com. Search for us on your favorite podcatcher with Final Space Overly Animated, or our YouTube is youtube.com/overlyanimated. Big finale to get into here. Make sure you've seen the sixth key and come back and listen to the spoilers for all of Season 2 of Final Space. We got a lot to get into, so how about just reactions to everything that happens on this finale, Michelle?
It was fast. It was really fast. I mean, a lot of things happened. We got a pretty big cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Nobody really died yet. I think that was something we thought was going to happen, that like there was going to be more death, kind of in line with season 1's cliffhanger finale. But no, we just end on like looming Invictus, and what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked parts of this episode a lot. I'm not sure how I feel as a whole yet, just because it just felt kind of like bam, 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 onto the next thing, onto the next thing. It really felt this time like they were trying to fit so much in to their runtime, which sometimes is very cohesive and fluid. I don't think it was necessarily not super cohesive, but I was very consciously aware of it for a significant part of the episode, which I feel like is not something that they intended. Yeah, I don't know. This is always the hard thing about going first, because I don't have anyone to bounce thoughts off of yet. But I mean, again, I really like some parts of it, and other parts I don't know.
Okay.
There's one part that like it's really like okay,
Yeah.
but everything else is pretty all right.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought you were going to say. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, a mixed reaction from Michelle. April, what was your reaction to the finale?
So I'm like, it was good. It was very like, in terms of like the animation, everything looked really good and clean and like very, I guess, pretty again, if that's the best word to use to describe animation. Because I always love, I don't know, that's just something that I really enjoy about the show overall. But in terms of like the story, like I totally agree with Michelle that there was a lot, and I think she said it best by like it was like cohesive but kind of not cohesive, and then like the one part that kind of, I don't know, like I have mixed feelings about like the whole Cheryl stuff, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Because it like as it stands right now, I don't know that like her redemption was necessarily earned, and so I was just kind of like, okay, I understand what we're doing. Let's just do it and get it over with. Like, so, but yeah, like there's a lot, and I feel like we got some things answered, but then we didn't get things answered, and Avocado's back permanently, so that's nice. Though I mean, and it was kind of funny too, like, cause Lil Kato's like, my two dads, and I was like, yes, I love this. I'm fully like appreciating this. So, but yeah, like, I'm curious to see how I feel like after we talk about it. So,
okay, we're still processing, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's valid. Alex, are you still processing this finale?
Definitely still processing. I'll say that the most solid reaction I had to this was, oh my god, do I actually love Tribor now? Like, somehow... like,
haven't you had this reaction this season already? I feel like you're in on Tribor now.
Yeah, I've been struggling to accept that part of me, but like this finale finally got me to, wow, Tribor can be competent and funny and great, and this is amazing. Like Tribor is now a character I enjoy watching. This is like such a turn. So Tribor is great in this finale. Also, we got like good Kevin stuff. I like Bolo. Like I think he just looks very amazing, especially when he gets like broken out and the action stuff.
You like Bolo's bod?
Bolo's bod.
He's huge and muscly and spiky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, as to the overall story of it, I will say that this definitely felt. I mean, it's weird because it's about like this big thing of like Titans and going back to Final Space. Yet to me, at the end, I was like, why did that feel like lower stakes than the season 1 finale? And like, because I feel like with the season 1 finale, I was a lot more hyped during it. I think part of that had to do with like having a solid villain in Lord Commander, where it's like
one
this
villain, instead of like 3 villains this season.
Michelle, we took care of all the random villains last episode. It's fine.
Well, except for Avocado, we took care of him this episode.
Well,
that's all in
this episode. It kind of bounces around because like we have to deal with Avocado being possessed, we have to deal with freeing Bolo, then we like go to Final Space and we have Invictus still hanging around. So it does definitely feel like we're Gary literally says the phrase "so many balls in the air," and I think that's
right. That's why I think that's why I think the episode's conscious of what Michelle was talking about. Like I think they
maybe. But like, even if it's conscious of it, I'm not sure it did the best at juggling it. So like, it's a fine finale, but I think it suffers from the overall problem of the season, which is that it feels like it's jumping around too many things and doesn't quite all come together. And on top of like, what's already been mentioned with Cheryl, also we'll get to Nightfall.
Yeah.
It took this long to say Nightfall's name? Okay. Yeah.
I think Michelle alluded to it in her remarks. But yes, so there are things that like we knew were coming and we were dreading, and it happened. So that also kind of makes you feel like fine. So yeah, it's a weird reaction I have to this finale where like I enjoyed the spectacle of it, but it just makes me think of how much more fun the season 1 finale was.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So it sounds like I'm going to be the highest on the finale, so I'll try to take up that stance firmly here, because I did think this was a really epic finale, and it was gorgeous throughout. Like, I have similar story problems, I think. So here's the thing. I think the season finale did the best it could story-wise with what it was given with the season. I've criticized the season's kind of serialization, its overall storytelling a bunch. You know, like, what's this finale supposed to do? I think, like, it's throwing a lot out there, and it was more cohesive than I thought they could have pulled off, you know, honestly, given what was there. So I thought it was, it did a decent job, and it let the spectacle shine, because I think this is one of maybe the most gorgeous episode of Final Space. I don't know, it might have beaten out episode 9 of last season. Like this episode is because it has the action and the space visuals, and I was just loving the epic spectacle the entire time. And then it was capped off with this ending scene, which is very thematic, and it's reminded me of the Steven Universe movie, because it's like, plot wise, you know, nothing's really, I mean, like, Gary and Quinn are reuniting. That's a big moment, but like, I don't really care about that. What I care about is just like, wow, the experience of watching this last scene. I was just in awe. Like, the feeling that it gives you and the visuals and the sound. Like, I think it's one of the best scenes of the show. I think it's one of my favorite scenes of the year. Like, I cut to, I don't know if this is going to come across on TV, but smash cut to silent credits. Like, that was also like really phenomenal. Like, I love how the season ends. It's like, I think Olin on Twitter already like said this isn't a cliffhanger. It's more of just a sign of what's to come, which I guess is kind of true, because it's more of just like Gary and Quinn reunited there in Final Space, and Invictus is coming. So I guess it's like setting up the next season. But just the way they pulled that off in the form of the scene in the scene, I think was really, really incredible. So you know, like, I'm not crazy about Nightfall Sacrifice. That's the main thing. Cheryl Demption, I take it or leave it. I don't think that ends up being that strong of a plot line, honestly. But I think the Avocado stuff, the Gary and Little Cato stuff is one of the stronger story elements of the finale, and that's true of the entire season. So you know, story wise, I think it does a competent job of wrapping up a season that was a little bit all over the place, but execution, visuals, production wise, I think it was phenomenal. I kind of want to talk about this last scene. Did anyone have a similar reaction to me? I was like, this is the thing that really jumps out the most to me about this finale.
Honestly, as you were saying all that, in my heart, I have to agree with you. Which is a lot coming from me, I would say.
to agree with me or to agree about final space?
It's very strong. I think it's probably one of the most, if not, at least for me, the most the scene between Gary and Quinn that works the best, and that is purely playing on our emotional feelings and not a lot else. Because if you think too much, it's like, how long has she been alive? How did that happen? They're just waiting the whole time. So you can't think about any of that stuff. But if you just the animation's really good, the music's really good. Just the facial gestures they give each other is just very subtle but very strong. And you're able to get the sense that these two people do really, really like each other and they're very happy to see each other. And this is a big deal for them. And it's a culmination. And that's true. It is. It honestly is. So just based on that level, I felt like it was super strong. And I feel like they've earned that. Yeah. I'm not even going to think about where this is going to go next season. But as an isolated moment, I thought it was really well done, honestly. Yeah.
Nice. You know what? As we're talking about, you know what else it reminds me of? Star vs. Evil spoilers. I think the Star series finale, they meet up and they're face to face.
Kind of the looking and just the slow getting to each other and just that final culmination of I've got you.
And that's also not as strong story wise. It's all thematic and feelings.
All emotional.
But also that relationship had a lot more.
That was a much better relationship. Yeah,
it absolutely
did. That is my. I get what you're saying about the setup of it. It is you can get that they're going for a cinematic feel, but I was because I don't. The show and Gary Quinn don't have enough connection to be oh, this is great, that this is really the climax of the season and I'm not feeling it. So it's frustrating in that way that the show wants me to believe in this so badly, and it's been every time that it gets brought up during the season, I'm is this really your only motivation? And it is, and that's how the season ends, and so that's what it's been setting up, but it doesn't feel great. The Invictus popping up in the background, I guess, contributes to what you mentioned about Olin calling this more of a foreshadowing, and maybe that's also part of why this doesn't really feel like a finale more than just kind of an important episode, because you can tell there's not really a big ending going on here. It's just kind of a setting up for something else. So maybe that's also part of why it feels like it's missing something as I think of it as a season finale.
Yeah, and Olin called this a setup season too, so I think maybe that plays the season finale is not going to be as because I agree, you feel more during the season one finale, and I attribute that to the season as a whole. I think, I've been saying,
it had a way more specific one directional goal.
It's much more of a cohesive plot, so the ending is going to be bigger. This season is just okay, we're wrapping up a season with ups and downs and a lot of plot lines in there, so it's not going to be as strong of a reaction when it all culminates. But I said, I don't really think it's this episode's fault.
No, I don't think it's this episode's fault, but I was just really relieved whenever they finally got to each other, because I was really worried at the end there too, because I was just I
think that was gonna happen.
Yeah, I was okay, but we freed Bolo so that we could get Quinn, are we getting her or no? What's happening? And so then whenever we see her and or the light shines on her, I was oh, thank gosh, oh, I can breathe again. And I do agree, the scene is very pretty, and it is you mentioned, Star versus the Forces of Evil, and it is very reminiscent of that. But I also like that they sort of allude to the first season too, because at the very end of the first season.
Reminiscent, I think, of episode 4 in the first season of them, Quinn coming back to them.
So there's a I guess it's a nice little tip of the hat to the first season, but I did really, really enjoy it, and the Invictus looming over them is very it's like really haunting too, kind of, because like, and again, if you think about it, or if you start to think about it too much, you're like, but wait, can they see that? Can anyone see that? Like, are we just seeing that? Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, this year of animation has taught me I like climactic scenes of people romantically coming face to face and then cutting, ending the episode. But I think that's what really works.
We need more variety. Switch it up.
It's only number 2, Alex. Okay.
I will say Alex's like take on this is like making me reevaluate why I liked it, and I think like no. I mean, this might make Alex more mad, but I think like I understand kind of why I'm feeling it now for the first time. It's because Quinn hasn't. I would say like Gary and Quinn's relationship has always been more about like Gary liking Quinn, and then it's more of a thing of like Quinn coming around. But it's like we're kind of more on like Gary's side in his perspective, I'd say. So the fact that Quinn hasn't really been in the whole season, and we've seen Gary kind of become a better person and be like a good surrogate dad and support Ash and like not even be that awful to his mom, even though like he would have a right to. Like seeing his relief and happiness says something more this time, because like I feel like I've seen a lot more sides of Gary that I can appreciate, and from his perspective, seeing him happy now makes me happy. But again, like Quinn's side of that's still totally missing, and I can't think about that too much or it'll ruin it. But I think like that's part of like maybe why it's working for me, but maybe not for you, Alex, because like you're thinking like, why, like, yeah, like why is Quinn into this? Like, why is this like a thing? Does it make sense? Like it might not make sense for Quinn if you think too much about it, but for Gary it really does, and Gary's the one we have the whole season, and I think like that's kind of where you as a viewer are like meant to lean into, even though you might not. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah, story-wise, this is not much, this ending, because Invictus is, and this is maybe a criticism of the finale, Invictus is not like a thing yet. Like, he's not appeared yet. Like once, and he's just more of like a general dark presence, so it doesn't really work as an opposing force versus Lord Commander in the season 1 finale, which is a really, really strong opposing force. And then Gary and Quinn coming together, like, it's something the season's been working towards, but it's not like the season's like...
It's something Gary has been working towards this season.
Right.
With the whole, I've been trying to get Quinn back, but it's not like the biggest story moment in of itself. So like, yeah, story wise, there's not a lot there. It's all about like this emotionally. And I do think like Quinn and Gary and Quinn is kind of the emotional heart of the show, as much as we don't want their romance to be. Like the season 2 kind of kept them front and center in terms of Gary's mission to get Quinn back, and Nightfall and Gary, and we're just constantly kind of talking about Gary and Quinn. So I do think it resonates emotionally, especially like looking back on the season 1 finale when they had that, like, in my view, really incredible moment of Quinn being the one to go and close final space. It's like, I think it plays on a lot of stuff that's built up. And I do think this kind of has been the emotional heart of the season in terms of Gary's motivation. So, I think it's the emotional climax of the season. I think the plot climax is more of like Nightfall and Bolo being freed and stuff. And so I think this is like a thematic denouement or whatever for the season. And for me, it really worked as that.
Yeah, but I think my point is like it really works, especially if you are invested in Gary's feelings, you know, and what this like means for him. I think like that's like an important part, and that's something I realized that didn't make as much sense because I was so much more like, what about Quinn though? What's her backstory? How does she really feel? But like we didn't have an opportunity for that this season, and I feel like that's honestly why I connected to this moment a lot more, because like I get Gary as a character now. So, and for him, like, yeah, this is a big moment. And then I can kind of like sort of be like, oh yeah, and Quinn's probably happy about it too. But I feel like you gotta connect with Gary to some extent to be able for this to feel satisfying for sure.
Yeah, which I think the season has done a much better job of.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point, Michelle, about like Gary's improved as a character definitely in season 2, and we've seen that. Quinn has not seen that, which is the hang up. But like, I get your point that like if you're focusing solely on Gary's side, then sure, this feels like kind of a reward for what he's done. And if you're into that, seeing Quinn as a reward, then sure.
I told you this might make you mad.
Yeah, we'll get back to this with the Nightfall stuff, I think. I think this more taps into season 1 Quinn perspective stuff that we didn't elaborate on in season 2. We just saw her that one episode.
But by the way, like season 1, like think about it. Season 3, we get Quinn back, we get Avocado back. So like season 2 is gonna be like this weird thing where like it was this specific dynamic that now in season 3 we're like going back to our original crew. Like that's like a show thing that I don't think happens that often. It's just a weird idea to think about that. Like the next season we're gonna kind of go back to season 1 dynamics.
It's gonna be a very too many cooks situation now though, because we got Jane Lynch, Ava. We got.
She's not the first one I would have mentioned.
We got Fox.
Yeah, Michelle. You know who didn't come back this season?
Clarence.
No, Clarence.
He didn't come back. He thought he might, and he didn't.
I gotta say, this show showed tremendous restraint not bringing Clarence back for the.
I know.
Maybe this was more of like an FU to the network, right? But it's like this season's like all about Clarence. He's not in the finale.
Little Kyle had a line at the beginning where had a line at the beginning of this episode where it's like, you should do what the most untrustworthy person does, the opposite. And I was like, yes, Clarence is coming. We're going to get Clarence's advice and stuff. And like, no.
Maybe that's a deleted scene. Yeah, Gary talks about Clarence. If only. What a place we ended up where I was rooting for Clarence to come back in the finale. I don't know. Maybe that's a
so
troll
odd.
I want to talk about I alluded to the music in this last scene. We go from like the like I guess like the Gary Quinn. I'm not sure if this is what it is, but the Gary Quinn theme of like this very like emotionally high, nice music into like the Invictus dark music coming on, and then in our screener it cuts to silent credits, which I like. Usually the credits play over the end of the episode. I'm not sure how it'll play on TV, but that to me was like very effective. I think
silent
credits.
Very effective, and I worry that it's not going to be so much like as it airs on TV, because they'll probably do like what they always do, and they'll like put the credits up like in a small like lower third or something like that.
It's possible. But our screeners previously have had the credits play over the episode, and that's also this airs on Adult Swim, which kind of does give it shows more time to air credits and stuff. So like I actually think it might. But anyway, you guys will know when you're listening to this. Hopefully, check. I mean, it would be online if not on TV. But So I just found the sounds like as usual. It's like a really high point of Final Space. I think I found that to be really really tremendous in the end. Should we talk about Nightfall, because I think that's related to this Quinn discussion. This is, I hesitate because it's going to maybe turn people off, but this is like...
If they've stuck with this long, right. I think they'll survive.
Are there Nightfall like fans? Like, is there?
I feel like we're Nightfall fans. We just didn't want this.
I mean, we are Nightfall fans. Yes, we always want one for her. That's what a fan does.
Was anyone at any part okay with Nightfall sacrificing herself?
So the way that I convinced myself that it was okay,
there you go.
So that's a good start.
Was because this is literally like I had to take a moment and be like, okay, April, this is the only way that this is okay, because that's what you do. So like, what is it? Nightfall like has always like her character's always centered around Gary, and then we have like that one episode this season about like her accepting that this isn't her Gary, so on and so forth. And so my thing for her is that she's probably not thinking about like Gary, but she's thinking about like this other version of herself who's going to be so happy to see like her Gary. And that's like that she's like, you know, like I can't get my Gary back, but at least I can like allow this Quinn to have her Gary. So that's kind of like how I justified it in my head to try and make me feel better about it.
I agree with you. I think this is the intent here is that Nightfall is Quinn. So like this is supposed to be a lead up to are Quinn coming back on the show? And Nightfall says, repeats their discussion from before, always meant to be together, but never meant to be. But she found a way for them to be together.
Yeah.
And she views it kind of as the chance she never had, I guess. And she like tried with Gary in that one episode, and she knows that it's not happening. And I guess she sees that like this is maybe like there's a way for a version of herself to have what she didn't have. So
which then adds to like the emotional like reunion, or it's emotional.
I think that's the intent. Yeah, and then it builds up to the Gary Quinn reunion. Yeah.
So I think in that regards, like it's successful, but like R.I.P.
I think it like works with what they did this season. At least it's like consistent with what we did with Nightfall.
It's very consistent with how Nightfall has been used the whole season for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the positive. Okay.
That's the positive. But here's the had to go.
Here's the negative. Nightfall's a separate person. She's not Quinn. Like she was presented as a separate person, so I don't like it in that aspect.
No. And we've gotten to know her a little bit this season, and it's just sad that, just had to kill off a strong lady, but okay.
It's just, we were just hoping that Nightfall would get to a point where she had motivation beyond Gary. And the show clearly is not interested in that, and they just got rid of her. So that was just like, it just plays into all the bad stuff we're talking about with them this season. I didn't think this was coming, and I was a little bit shocked. I was a little bit shocked.
I feel like we've been discussing this for the past like 3 episodes. Like I
honestly didn't think she was gonna die. I thought Cheryl was gonna be the one to do it, which honestly I would not have been thrilled with. But we're less invested in her, and she's not a great person. So if she did it on her own terms, like okay, that would have been a choice. But Nightfall hasn't gotten to do anything besides be like this wise person to espouse advice to everyone else, and then to have that one episode about kind of her life in relation to her Gary and reconciling that that's not going to happen. But now she can never find anyone else, and she's gone. And I guess you can say it's on her terms, but like, I don't know. I kept thinking maybe the show would take this direction where it'd be like, okay, we're like gonna really talk about Nightfall now, though. Like she can go through time. Like that's so cool. She's super old. She's seen so much stuff. She probably knows the galaxies like way better than anyone else from like traveling through them. Like we never saw that side of her, and I feel like that would have been the most interesting stuff they could have done. So, like, I guess I get why they killed her, because, like, she had, besides, like, literally Hugh, there's, like, nobody else that has, like, so little going on that it would have felt, like, way worse to lose them. And that sounds really sad to say, but I think it's, like, honestly true. So, I mean, and I just, like, also can't just help but think, like, I don't know. I mean, like, I know Nightfall's not Quinn, but they're both kind of, like, the only black lady in the show. And, like, does that have, like, an extra subtextual layer that, while not intentional, kind of reads a certain way? That they gave up their life, that their life might not be as important or something as these other characters? Or it's, like, okay for them to be a martyr and do the self-sacrificey thing? I don't know. But like that's kind of where my head goes sometimes, and I don't know. It makes me wonder how people feel about it.
It's definitely fair. It's complicated with her being an alternate version of Quinn, but like we said, like the show established her as a separate character.
A separate
Alex,
character, but the kind of the same
character. Yeah,
because. It's like, it's the same thing with, like, Quinn sacrificing herself, Gary going, no, don't do it. Mm-hmm. And now here, it's Nightfall sacrificing herself, Gary, no, don't do it. Like,
we're just never going to get this, guys.
yeah. And, like, Nightfall's existence as a character was solely focused around Gary, as Michelle alluded to.
That's true, right?
It feels like there's a lot.
Let's think about this. So Nightfall's whole goal the first season was, like, I gotta stop a Gary from dying. It's happened so many times and I've failed so many times, but this time's going to be different. She stops it from happening, I guess. Gary doesn't die, but that's when her entire motivation as a character just dies. She doesn't do anything else except for just motivate other people, and then she sacrifices herself at the end. But, like, it does kind of feel like the show's like, all right, she's got this one goal. When she finishes that goal, I don't know what we're going to do with her. I don't know, we can touch on her past and her Gary, I guess. But that's, like, so not something it really cares about on any kind of, like, deep, interesting level. So, like, again, it's, like, you can really see, like, where, like, her arc of, like, being really interesting happens in season 1 and where it flatlines in season 2 for the majority of the season. It's just like, looking back, it makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, the point being, like, there's clearly more interesting things we could have done with Nightfall. As
so many things.
Yes.
Never go through time with her again.
She's been
she knows how to do that.
Alternate universes, and we focus on the aspect of that relates to Gary.
Even like a flashback episode, like
that would have been fun.
I don't know.
Yeah, I like I said.
I guess the Gary episode was kind of a flashback, but just Gary flashbacks.
Just Gary focused. Yeah. Going back to like the show's intent with this, I do think this plays really well with episode 7 that we just mentioned. And I do think like this finale and episode 7 are two of the stronger episodes of the season. So like they're kind of successful in the storytelling they're doing. It's just, I guess, like
in the storytelling they're doing, yes.
Yeah, it's just like not inherently interesting storytelling, but like they're executing it very well. But I don't like I guess that's why I don't I don't like this. I'm not like enraged with it, but because I think it does play very well into the season and into episode 7, which I do think is like very successful episode. But
the way you say that makes me think like, oh, they made like Nightfall's plot characterization stuff is like, oh, they made a meal of hash browns for dinner when they could have made like a souffle. You know,
I think so, yeah.
What it is, it's very nice hash browns, but it's also kind of just hash browns, and that's a choice someone made, you know?
I mean, I think I described the entire season a little bit like that. Like we,
no, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we can maybe save it for the end, but I think I've been a little bit having trouble connecting what this whole season's been doing, and I do think ultimately this finale cements that we never really tried to go for super complex storytelling, like I think I was asking for at the end of season 1. And I think like it's probably in large part due to the show being limited by like the network and like how it was not supposed to be as serialized as they wanted it to be. But what they did get is a lot of focus on like oh, here's Nightfall, we could do a lot of stuff. Oh, we do like this very simple element of her. And there's a lot of plot lines that are pretty paper thin. So
I think they did pick though. Like I don't think like they didn't do anything complex, but they certainly like put more time and effort into like a couple of relationships. Like I will say Cheryl and Gary's relationship is like pretty complicated and nuanced. Like we've only seen a bit, but like there's a lot of potential there. I think Gary and Little Cato's
that's what I would go to as the
strongest. And it's also like fairly nuanced and interesting and complex, but like it's also very uplifting and gratifying. So like they clearly are doing it. It's just like, like you can't balance that with a million people and someone's going to get cut. And in this case, like it was Nightfall. It may be a few other people, but still.
Yeah, I definitely think Gary and Little Cato, we can get to the Cheryl. I guess we can talk. So that's it for Nightfall. She sacrifices herself. Also, like, how did I not see it coming? Well, they didn't introduce the mechanic of someone having to sacrifice themselves.
Yeah, they did.
That
was legitimately a surprise.
That's my criticism every episode this season. We just invent rules every single time.
Bolo says it so casually, like, oh yeah, when are you gonna die? Didn't you know that? Life's
we'll get back to Bolo.
If I told you.
Yeah, let's get back to Bolo. But how about Cheryl? So Michelle said Cheryl's like it ends up being a complicated character. I agree she's complicated. I'm not convinced she's complex at the end. I do think she kind of has one thing, which is just that loves John, hates Gary, learns that she should have liked Gary. Like,
yep.
I mean, it's like it's. I do think it's very well done in this episode. I kind of like what we did with showing her the memories.
I think it's so. I will say that I think it's well done, but I also think that it, like for me, it felt a little like undeserved, and that's specifically because like you
didn't see the Cheryl Demption coming, April.
I mean, I guess, but the amount of time that we've sort of given Cheryl and like the range of her character, like you probably could have just like she could have left the room, come back and been like, okay, you know what? I realized I was wrong. I'm here to fight with you. And like, we could have saved ourselves like what, 5 minutes? So we've done something else with those 5 minutes. I mean, it was like really, really like pretty and everything, but I just wish that if like you wanted it to be a big deal for me, then you would have spent slightly more time on like the Cheryl aspect of it. So, and it's not hard for us, like for the show to, and it's not the fault of like this episode. I think it's like something that we could have like been doing this entire season or started doing, way before this season, because like the show knows how to like balance, semi-balanced characters. Like in the first season, like we saw like what Lord Commander was doing as well as what Gary and the gang were doing, and so we could have had something along those lines with Cheryl too, but like we didn't. And then like her whole thing is like, we can't like free Bolo, and then she just is like, okay, let's do it. Like I don't know. That just seemed really like she turned on a dime.
I didn't even think of that aspect.
It's a very like final spacey thing. Like characters will just change their like. It's the same with like, so Avocado gets unpossessed. He doesn't have a nice reunion with little Cotto or anything. They're just straight to business, and it's like that moment is gone forever. So I will say, like,
the heat of the battle
with Gary.
yeah. Gary, the most important. I was like, wow, Cheryl, you're not gonna like have a conversation with Gary and apologize. But like on rewatch, I kind of
do
like
at the end.
It's kind of her personality too to not do it that way. Like I feel like it's in character for her to just kind of be like, all right, like we're doing this. Like I'm on your side now. Like that's how it is. Like she's not a woman of many words. She doesn't really like have deep emotional talks about things. She's pretty gruff. So like in terms of like characterization, it checked out to me. But I mean her motivation is very like straightforward. You're all right. I just like the fact that she's gonna have to stick around and like I don't know how they're gonna reconcile 32 years. That's a long time. And plus like the fact that she was like seeing this alternative reality where like she was there and they were like a unit, all three of them. And like she got to experience her family growing and changing. And the fact that she like understands that she ruined all of that from happening by herself, that it wasn't Gary's fault. She was a nasty liar. That's why everything went wrong. And it's not fair to blame Gary. I think like she honestly does admit that to herself. I don't know if she's admitted that to Gary, but it's true. And that's why she changes sides. Like she's willing to fight for a semblance of relationship with him. I don't know how that's going to go, but I mean, the fact that she's willing to, I mean, again, like, I feel way worse for Gary than her, like, to just have to take all this on and, like, years and years and years of just, like, abandonment is huge and can't be understated. But the fact that she's willing to try for a relationship that he seems to want, I think, is something significant. And the fact that, like, I don't think all of Gary's crew would be talking this woman through, like, a group therapy session if not for the fact that they all genuinely like Gary and they can tell that she's important to him, even if she's, like, not being a great person. I think they understand that he really does want a relationship with her, and that's why they're trying to help her get to a better place. It's, like, all for Gary, honestly, because he's the one they care about, and that checks out. So I don't know.
I just worry that this show is, in terms of her, like, because okay, in a sense, she's kind of like there's the potential that she could get what she wants, which is, I mean, there's a chance that maybe. You know what I mean. Yeah. So because essentially she would need the keys to get to final space with like the other Titan guy that she was in communication with, and she's just like, okay, well, let me just ride this train to get to where I need to go to anyway. Like, there's no sense in fighting it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're, I mean, I guess that's a possibility, but that wasn't.
That'd be a good twist, actually.
It would.
Never change. Yeah,
I think what this discussion brings up is, like, I think we could go in a lot of interesting directions with Cheryl after the season. Like, her being in the mix, I think, is actually pretty interesting. So that's kind of the good. And I also like what Michelle was talking about in terms of, like, seeing the Cheryl stuff through Gary's character. Again, I guess, like, that is like we should see it through the main character. So like Gary's emotions about her mom and how the other characters were wanting to play into that and stuff. I think that's a good perspective on how that was handled in the finale too. Alex, anything on Cheryl that hasn't been said? Negative reaction from you?
Not particularly. I think Michelle and April have covered it pretty well. I just want to say, I think April mentioned something about like using the 5 minutes for something else. I will say that the Tribor walking Cheryl through like her motherly past and like convincing her to like look at her past from a different point of view, like that was actually pretty interesting television, and it was pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
and I want. And like I don't want we talk about like the story primarily because we're like an analytical podcast, but I will say that a big positive of this season is that it always stayed funny from beginning to end, and even this finale has like lots of jokes that land pretty well. And Tribor in that serious scene delivers a lot of really good lines. So I think that even for the purpose of a story that's very straightforward and weak, but like I still had a lot of fun with that scene, but because of like the way the jokes that they stuff into it.
Yeah, I think Tribor was fun in that scene, but the overall point of like Cheryl's been hating Gary her entire life, and in 5 minutes Tribor convinces her to love Gary, I think is
like Tribor of all people. It
feels extremely fast, So
but it feels extremely right because it's Tribor. If anyone could do that, it's Tribor.
I don't think the Tribor part, it's more just like the 5 minutes part, I feel like is what feels absurd. But it's like if you can accept that, then I do think it's well done. But like limiting it to not building it up in previous episodes feels I don't know, sketchy.
Yeah, it feels sketchy, but like I'm not saying that it wasn't like a really well done scene and that it wasn't like really great. And I do like I appreciate like the seriousness of it, but also like again like Alex mentioned like the jokes that came along with it too, like Tribor like reaching for the holographic bowls, and he's like, what are these? Are they plastic or are they glass?
That's a classic Tribor, like yeah. Him caring about bowls or his scarf. Yeah, okay.
You had everything. A family, these bowls. Yeah. You ruined it all. Yeah, his good lines.
Classic Tribor. Okay, let's talk about Avocado coming back, I guess, briefly as much as we can. We had the episode, Avocado came back, then he's gone again, and now he's back in this episode as Invictus, and then Ash blasts that Invictus out of him.
Blasts while remembering the one conversation she had with Nightfall this season. Like, hey, remember that time Nightfall was a mom to me and like told me that I'd be cool? Yeah, I'm gonna remember that now.
For a second, I thought Nightfall was gonna like, because she talked to like a lot of people. I thought they were all gonna have that moment to be like, yes, words of wisdom, Nightfall montage edition. But it was just Ash, which was random as heck.
Yeah, I did like it though. I think Ash's thingy thing has been a little bit of a sub theme this season, subplot.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good culmination. Like she had at one point, Nightfall said you'll find a reason to use it, and she figures she culminates her power and using it to help her, the person I guess in Little Kato who she is the biggest emotional connection to, and like freeing his dad. I think that like pretty well works with Ash's character. It is like juxtaposed right into Nightfall sacrifice, and we get this like one moment of here's how Nightfall's affected people. Yeah, maybe we could have done more with that. I think that it was an effective moment in of itself. But anyway, Avocado is back, I guess.
He's back in normal.
He's normal, at least for now. He was back at some point, and then he was gone. So I don't know. He might go away again. But
maybe he's still infected.
Is that going to be a plot line? There's a piece of Invictus left in Avocado. That's a classic sci-fi novel.
Invictus is going to snatch him right there. We saw it in the cliffhanger. They don't need to do that with Avocado.
Also, it seems like he has his memory back now.
Yeah, he has his full memory back now.
Yes, like now, like because when Avocado was back the first time, it was like, oh, I don't remember anything. We're starting over. But like now, it just feels like, okay, we got season 1 Avocado back.
Which I think, like, on a basic level, Avocado is a great character. Avocado's back. That's good. Yeah. Right? Like, this, I feel like that's the level 1 analysis. Like, this is good news for season 3, because I think Avocado being here is a good thing. How about in terms of, like, the themes this season? Like, for Little Kato, he was, like, dealing with the loss of Avocado, then he like gets him makes him closer with Gary, and then he buries his dad. But now Avocado's back, and he's happy he has 2 dads. There's an adorable scene.
No, oh my god,
it's my 2 dads.
Only stakes final space has is that the Earth is gone. That's the only thing, because we got Quinn back, we got Avocado back, like everyone's
people
fine.
really don't stay dead on this show.
We have no stakes. I would have loved the fact that if Avocado just like died in the beginning, like, yeah, sometimes people die and you have like you have to forge a new family, and it's not perfect, but like it'll get you through the day and through your life, and you find different people at different parts of your life who will support you. Like, all that's so good. Why would you bring Avocado back to throw a wrench in that? Because now there's going to be more like awkward two-dad drama. And I just like, that's not emotionally satisfying at all. So I don't know.
I found it to be emotionally satisfying on the level of like, Little Kato suffered a lot this season, and he was like so happy at the end, and that felt amazing.
Like, I don't want to say it's for nothing, but it's like, we spent a good long time on Little Kato, like dealing with his grief and getting to a place to move forward, which is very relatable to like people who lose people. And like, isn't it weird that now that doesn't really matter because he's back and it's all fine?
Yeah,
like, why
it is weird.
So much time on it.
Well,
like,
I think we could have spent time if he grew as a person because of it, and that has like a tangible effect on his character. Also, I think him and Gary's relationship is still gonna stay prominent. The growth they had post Avocado, like he's like both of my dads, right? So it's not like him being his dad went away, so that's still there. I mean.
I would love to have like an episode where in the third season where Avocado and Gary have to go to like a parent-teacher conference or something.
That would be kind of great, actually.
Like super sitcom-y. It would be wonderful. These are my two dads.
Gary and Avocado have their moments of reuniting where grasp hands and their muscles bulge, and that is like a very important relationship to the show. With them being Little Kato's two dads is like this would be the best version of the show if Gary and Avocado were together romantically and were actually Little Kato's dads. Because Gary and Quinn.
Look, Avocado can have dads and a mom.
They could totally be open. I think
OT3,
yeah. Yeah, because like then Quinn could have somebody else who's not Gary too, which I think would be very good for her regardless. So make it OT3.
I'm glad you people are so confident in Final Space pursuing unconventional stories.
I don't know if this is confidence. It's more of, like I said, this is the best version. It's not going to happen, but I do worry about like jokes about Avocado and Gary being his dads, and it's like, we're not a couple. You know, I could see a lot of that.
I could see that too, actually.
Yeah.
No homo.
Right, a lot of no homo, but
well, maybe Gary be like, well, I don't know, like I think you're pretty good.
It could be
like non-committal flirting.
But then remember, in season 3, you have to do Little Kato realizing he's gay. That's the plot line. I
think he knows he's gay. He just hasn't said it to anyone.
He might two dads, so that he can be more comfortable with it.
Yeah, that exactly. It all is leading to. The build up with this.
You're welcome.
I actually think it's gonna happen. Speaking of season 3,
maybe they're gonna have the talk episode where they both awkwardly try to have the sex talk with him now that they know.
They're definitely doing that.
Yeah.
That's 100% happening. They have the talk with him. Didn't they? I feel like Gary tried to give it to him earlier.
Sort of,
but so we'll get more of that.
Yeah, about the puberty balls in your stomach or something.
Yeah.
In terms of season 3, Owen tweeted vaguely that there's good news. I can't say anything yet, but there's like good news coming. So it looks like season 3 is happening. Yay!
Yay!
I really wonder if it's gonna be if Adult Swim is gonna just straight up acquire the show or not, or if TBS is gonna hold on to it.
It's going to the Warner Media streaming platform, whatever that is.
Oh no! I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I can say anything about that, but like, I think they're gonna keep airing the show. On TV.
They'll air it somewhere. You know, who cares? Whatever. Honestly, like in this day and age, who cares
wherever they air it?
We'll find it wherever it goes.
Like whatever.
Send it to TNT.
Right, and
they just keep bouncing around channels every single season.
They really, put it on True TV already. I mean, come on, that's where it's gonna be.
Right next to Impractical Jokers.
Ooh, yes.
Did you just name a True TV show? That was impressive.
Have you never seen Impractical Jokers?
No, of course not.
Great. Okay. I've not seen this either.
Okay.
The Carbonaro effect. Let's go to True TV.
My husband loves that show. I do not like it.
This is good to know.
Did not know anything except for the NCAA tournament aired on True TV. Noted. Okay.
Oh yeah.
That's the only thing I know. Okay. Avocado's back. Let's talk about Bolo. Okay, let's talk about Bolo
Okay,
because
Bolo.
last
Bolo
episode
sounds
is,
like basketball, like Bolo ball.
No, yeah.
Okay, I guess. But last episode, Bolo's like, Bolo's evil, as we were like, we're right. But I think it ends up being in this episode that Bolo is not evil.
Are you sure?
I'm
no,
not sure.
absolutely not sure. I'm not sure, but that's my best guess.
That I think that there's still the potential for Bolo to be evil. Because, first off, he was in prison for some reason before all those other Titans got infected by Invictus. So, that's not to say that he is not completely evil. Also, he's like totally willing to just kill off all the other Titans. That seems evil to me.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So he declares war against Invictus and every other Titan.
Yep.
He's like, I'm gonna kill all of them. So so that seems evil, but ambitious, I agree. But here's the proof that he's good is that the spider gods are on his side, and you'd think the spider gods would not be evil.
I don't know.
But they can be tricked. They're spiders. I mean, come on.
What's that supposed to mean?
Such lack of faith in arachnids.
That's not lack of faith. It's just everyone has flaws, even spider gods.
But they're gods. Like, I trust the gods, right? Like, I mean,
they don't know everything.
Okay, but maybe the gods.
God is omniscient, I think, right? Like, isn't that how
we don't know the
mythology
spider
works?
gods are omniscient.
Maybe the spider gods are like, hey, we're just here to watch the show play out, so we're gonna let whatever happen.
Yeah, they're the kind of god that just like sets up the world and watches it do its own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. So I do think, like, if you take away the Arachnitect's role in this finale, then Bolo comes across really sketch because he does declare war on every other Titan. Who are we going to believe? Every Titan or Bolo? Like, you know,
I'm going to believe Bolo.
What?
I'll say, I know you guys are really into evil Bolo, and that's why you're struggling to let go of that. But I will say that the show, at least in my eyes, is trying to be very blunt about, hey, look, like this is just like this lone rogue Titan going against all the evil Titans on his own, like suicide mission, let's do it. Like that's how it comes off to me. And like he's framing it as like, I need my revenge against all the other Titans. But like again, it's like one versus everybody, so I can't really call that person evil if they're like the underdogs in the situation.
Well, that's how Bolo is presenting it. So you're buying into Bolo's narrative that he's the underdog.
I'm buying that he's like the only person who's involved in this. Like all other
and he's the only perspective we see. And I do think that on the surface, that's what the finale presents. But I think it's ambiguous enough that the finale doesn't necessarily like I think it's clearly presenting that as Bolo's perspective, and that's the perspective the characters are buying into. But I do think there's this doubt where he's like, I'm going to kill everyone.
No, that's not why I doubt him at all. The reason I doubt him is it's basically his word against the other Titan that he's not a bad guy, which is not a strong case. Yeah, and the other fact that why would we plant the seed that he could be shady this late in the season if to just then totally rule it out the next episode? That does not check out for me either. And for those two reasons, I am suspicious of Bolo.
Yeah, Michelle brings up a good point. When they're like, hey, that other guy said Drevel, he's like, oh, that guy's a dick.
Exactly. That's
a really sketch response. Bolo. Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing. So it is kind of his word against that guy.
And also, he didn't tell them about the sixth key.
And he also doesn't tell them about the sixth key, which he's like, you guys wouldn't have came.
And he doesn't tell them about the fact, like, okay, because the Arachnitects or whatever were like, hey, like, if we let you into final space, like,
you can't come back.
You can't come back. And so, like, I feel like he probably knew that as well and also didn't tell them. So, like, now everyone's just trapped in final space. Like, here we are.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next. But, it's there's reasons to doubt Bolo, I guess. In terms of, like, why the show would plant the seed, I do think it's, like, subversive because, like, maybe the show is, like, subtly, like, saying, oh, Bolo could be evil in the beginning, like we picked up on. And then they're like, oh, Bolo is evil. Nope, JK, he's good. Like, I do think that's, like, subversive.
I mean, I suppose, but
I also be like a bad red herring, though, couldn't it?
Right, he's supposed to just be a red herring. Like that could be it. But I do kind of think Michelle's right that this is going to still be a thing. Like, do we trust Bolo? Do we trust the other Titans? Like, if the show wanted this not to be a thing heading in the next season, it could have been a lot clearer. Like, Bolo's perspective is clear, but there are these seeds of doubt that we get, and they did bring it up last episode. So I think this is intended to be a plot line heading into season 3. Which I'm okay with.
More things to wonder about, yeah.
It's interesting. It didn't this was one of the more interesting things about season 2 from an overall story perspective. Like, is Bolo good? Is he evil? And we don't end up answering the question. So maybe it doesn't help the season overall, but it'll speak well to the show overall if this is a strong plot line and we continue it into the future.
Well, and it could also be one of those oh, well, we're going to side with the lesser evil of things.
They're probably both evil, honestly.
Yeah.
They are both Titans. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the Bolo's presenting himself as the one good Titan. It is a tough story to buy.
Yeah, I don't buy
even
it.
The best Titan's still not a great person.
Right, yeah. Maybe we are ultimately supposed to side with him, but he has his own flaws. I do think the other side, though, is Invictus is clearly evil, or at least the show's presenting us.
Oh, yeah, Invictus is legit bad.
So,
there's no
maybe he's good from
that.
the side that the other side is definitely evil. So in that respect, isn't he relatively good at least? Yeah. That'll be interesting if we get into the other part of Bolo is that we get his bod and he has 6 arms and this weird muscular bod. Yeah.
God.
And then he anime runs and he anime throws them into the hole.
It's a big month for Naruto runs.
It really
I don't think he was
is.
Naruto running, but he was very he was animated very anime-esque. And I think it was effective. I think it was a different style for this other world figure that we see him broken out of his imprisonment. But I think this is very unlike anything we'd seen from the show, stylistically, which really made it jump out to me.
I appreciate that he was running alongside the ship trying to.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I thought that looked really good.
He just chucks him into the hole. Yeah, it was very good.
He'd be good at baseball. He has a good arm toss.
Yeah, he's the starting pitcher of the Titan softball scrimmage. Yeah,
there you go. Sport words.
Cheryl takes control of the ship, avoids one rock, and then does nothing else because Bolo just tosses him into the portal.
Hey, they would have died if she didn't.
That's
throw
true
them
too.
up,
But
I guess
it was supposed to be a big moment.
She was pivotal in that pilot seat for 10 seconds.
It wasn't a lot of time to shine. We'll get more Cheryl next season. Yay! I guess. So we're in the final space. This is why, again, I do think the finale does a good job of feeling epic the entire time, even if the story things that are happening are not big culminations of the season. They're culminations of certain things, but not to the extent season 1 culminations were. That being, I still think they execute it epically the entire time. And one of the reasons why I think is we end up in final space and it's hey, that's what the show is called. We're in final space now. This feels pretty big. I feel like here we are, final space. Oh, we're in final space this season. Shit's going down.
Very bleak looking. I thought it was going to be full of potential and cool stuff, but it just looks like a dead graveyard.
I thought it was going to be colorful and very, very pretty, and I was oh, this is final space.
Well,
it looks
look, this is the part of final space where all the dead Garys and Quinns are, but if you go to a different part, it'll be a lot nicer.
It looks like we're inside of an eyeball. Have you ever been to the eye doctor and you take those pictures of your eye? That's what it looks like. I was
it's little red veins going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they leave it open enough that they could do a lot of different things artistically with Final Space. Maybe they have a set plan already, but I feel like we haven't seen enough that we really know what it's going to be like.
Well, if this is Final Space, I want to go home.
Maybe Kevin will say that.
Well, home, but that being, home is in Final Space. We could go back to Earth next season because Earth is in Final Space.
Oh, perfect!
I think that'd be really cool if there's a fucked up Earth from.
No, it won't have a sun. It's gonna be super dark all the time.
Yeah,
and maybe no gravity. Who knows?
I want to see that actually. Yeah.
Yeah, the Earth is. The Earth is super fucked. Let's be real. No one on Earth survived.
Oh,
Not even that one guy's family.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
They're hella dead.
They're hella dead. April.
Maybe there's all the Earth people are some version of Final Space zombies, and it's super depressing seeing everyone in some form of alive, but not.
Their
really
bodies adapted to this new atmosphere.
Yeah, I want to see the horror episode or episodes on Final Space Earth.
Oh,
I feel like because I feel like one of the more successful elements this season was that one episode that had these huge horror elements to it, and I think that's one big thing I'd love for the show to explore more in season 3.
That could be fun.
I think Final Space is probably prime territory for this. Like this could be a pretty screwed up place. Yeah. Any other comments about us being in Final Space? I don't know. It's most like we'll see. It's like,
we'll see. Yeah.
I think
it does. Well, it does make me think that being in Final Space might cut down on the addition of side characters. It's like, I don't know, besides the Titans, if anyone exists in Final Space.
That's true.
So like that'd be an interesting turn for like a season to focus just on the cast and the ship, and us not being able to go to like planets and like doing different mission stuff. Like I wonder how we would deal with like a universe that doesn't have people.
It would be interesting. Like you could still do sci-fi planets, but they're just like not with like living creatures as we know on them or something.
Yeah,
that would be really interesting way to focus down more. I mean, we're not necessarily going to stay in Final Space the entire season. I would hope that we stay there a while. I guess considering
I was like, I kind of hope we do stay in Final Space.
I kind of hope we do, but I mean, we could just not do it.
Like we could just not
do it. Well, all right then.
All right, so those are options: do it or not do it.
Not do it.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I'm just saying, like, Avocado was dead, then he wasn't dead, then he's, so we've switched things up sometimes.
Quinn was gone, now she's back.
Things change in Final Space.
Gary's mom wasn't in his life, now she is.
Yeah. Avocado was dead and then lost his memory. Now he's fine.
We take. Cake was captured, and now he's back with Gary.
Kevin was dead, but he's back alive as well.
We'll get to Kevin ever dead? We'll get to Kevin in a second.
He was kind of dead at the very beginning of season 2. Yeah.
So heading into season 3, I feel like we had some complaints about certain things. There's some things we like, some things we didn't like. I think there's a lot of potential for season 3 with where we ended up, at the very least.
I'd agree.
We're in a pretty interesting place there.
I was gonna say, and if like Olin said that season 2 was like a setup kind of season, like season 3 is gonna be. I like it. It really like makes me excited that there's potentially going to be a season 3, like because we can just do so much, especially since we're in Final Space.
Yeah, it does make you excited if this was the setup season, because we're at a really interesting place. We did have a lot of strong elements to the season. You could argue it didn't come together that well, but there's like a lot of interesting things, and framed differently, I think there's like a particularly strong season we could get. I'll put this here, like overall season 3 thoughts, like overall season 2 thoughts heading into season 3, my like checklist of things to improve on. I think gonna start with the way the season handled serialization. I've complained about it kind of all season, but there wasn't like a lot of it. And when we did get it, it seems like new things were just popping up every episode. So I think if season 3 wants to feel more like cohesive story-wise, it needs to kind of change how it approaches that, which I think probably the show's aware of. Number 2 would be more complex storytelling again, because I do think a lot of these plot lines end up being pretty basic, as we just discussed.
Well, that's like, again, if they aren't allowed to change networks, I'm not sure that's something TBS wants them to pursue. And that seems like it's been a constant battle with them trying to do that. So it's not for them, like the lack of their interest in that, but they might not be allowed to like go as much as they want to.
That. Yeah, but maybe things will change and they're convinced, like apparently they like the finale, the network did. Maybe they'll be convinced to go more on this storytelling now. But yeah, just more complexity. I said that season 1. And then thing number 3, I think, is like, there was like some hope that the show's kind of overall viewpoint towards its female characters was improved this season. I think we kind of end up not being much improved from season 1, considering the Nightfall sacrifice at the end. So like, I do think the show needs to take another bigger step back, look at how its female characters are being written, how there's female voices in the process here. Because like we talked about, every female character is defined by a guy still.
I mean, not Ash anymore. Clarence is gone, so
Ash
is her own person now.
A slight bright point in this regard.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah.
I think Ash is the one.
Ash for season 3 is free.
Yeah.
We freed Ash, but Like if the show just wants to be like a male perspective, like sci-fi adult comedy show, then they can do that. But it seems like they want to break free of that.
I don't think they do. I think they want more. I'm a little confused. Like, what do they want, and what
if they are attempt like
I don't know.
Yeah, well, TBS aside, I can't talk to the network. Like if they really want to try to go beyond this male perspective, like this wasn't it. Like it was an attempt, but like we gotta take a bigger step back. Like this wasn't ultimately that success. There's some hope there. There's some progress, but like this isn't what we were looking for. It would be what I would say.
I liked Ash's episode, like maybe top 3 of the whole season.
But I don't think that's like a contender for my favorite episode.
Yeah, honestly, it's all about her. Like it's not even like it's not about Fox. Like it's about Ash, and it's really not like it's just like her origin story of her powers and her thing with her sister, and she gets closure, and it's sad, but like, and Gary's there for her, and Nightfall's there for her, and Lil Cato's there for her. I honestly think that
Kevin moments in that
really
one.
Good. Yeah. Like I will say, like I get frustrated, but also like Dylan, I think I've been much more frustrated for much longer about these things. So like I am a little more happy that they're at least like conscious of trying to have more characters and trying
like they're tried, right? Yeah.
I think like, you know, Ava, okay, Nightfall, okay. But Ash, like, I really feel like she's like the one I'm the most excited about, and maybe she will blaze a trail to open up other characters to do interesting things too, like other lady characters. They gotta start somewhere, and I feel like they're not doing a bad job with Ash, and like maybe she's just the start of something great with that. You know, it's like
even with Ash, maybe like they were just like, okay, like we'll see how this goes, and then like we can use this like to now super develop out like Quinn because we have her back now. So like, and like, yeah, so like now we have like that opportunity to like develop, you know, like work on her character and see like where, like what she can do and where she can go. Because like she's with Gary and everything like that, but like they're together. So like, I don't see them like becoming separated like immediately, and so there's just a chance for her to just go somewhere, you know, as an individual versus like her entire like plot being like defined by a man.
Let's hope we go do bigger things with Quinn than just Gary, which is kind of all we've done so far.
Well, I mean, like we're in a nice place now where they finally both are into each other, and it's like great. That has been the entire trajectory of their relationship all the way up to the finale of the first season. Now that we're there, they have to do other things because they already like each other. That's
you would think we'd have to do other things.
It's not an obstacle anymore. So yeah, I would like to think that they have to do other things.
Yeah, now. They have to. And if they do, no, because anything that they do is like in term to like create drama between them is probably going to be forced.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be forced. It's going to feel forced. Like, there's no way you can properly execute forced drama. So it would just be in their best interests to, like, accept that they're together, finally, and then move on.
Season 3 is just a slice of life romance between Gary and Quinn in Final Space.
In Final Space. Dead Gary's.
Everyone's just very happy. They're just happily frolicking along the dead Gary's bodies. And
Kevin scooping them up to make his own nest in his room.
Kevin's going to be like, oh, so many Garys.
I know. I'm so excited. He has his own little family.
Yeah. Okay, back to what I was going to say. You guys mentioned episode 3 is one of your standouts. We definitely disagree on that one.
I know we do, but it's true. It's great.
My standouts of the season. And you guys can give any others as well. The other side's still definitely my top of the season, episode 4. Then I think episode 7, First Times They Met, and this finale would be my 2 and 3. I think that they look pretty strong looking back, and also the horror elements episode also I think stands out. That's maybe a 4th there. Any other ones you guys want to bring up?
I'll say that the Tour Regatta, like the first episode of the season, like with the entire season ahead of us, like that was a pretty good like setup to the like what would come, and it was like a very good action sequence that like introduced us to Ash. You're very nostalgic
for Clarence, right? Like that's
yeah. I mean that was the first money compass.
Yeah, that's true. The money, that's a strong argument.
It was the beginning of something beautiful that never really came back. So, like, the Tour Regatta is, even with the whole season, like, it still, I think, has an argument for top 3. Like, I think my top 3 is actually the Grand Surrender, then the Other Side, and then the finale. But, like, Tour Regatta might be, like, 4th.
Yeah, we see the season differently. I think episodes 1 to 3 were the weak point for me of the season, but they're all good. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't think the season came together that well, but every episode I do think is good. So yeah, I mean, even if I think episode 1 is like slightly worse than others, I do think it's like close, you know, and there are strong elements to it. It depends, I guess, what you're looking for. The money compass is a very good argument, I gotta say. there was no money compass in this finale.
No. Well, we didn't have clearance.
We might not have plans for season 3. Oh no!
Oh no!
I think Setup and Descent into Darkness were also good, really good. But yeah, the season. I mean, like, if you look back, like, really, there's just a lot of strong episodes. I think they executed very well on a lot here.
And even like some of like the weaker episodes have like still have moments that are very strong. So
I don't think for me there's like a bad or necessarily average episode. I think like everything's kind of good. I think every episode, like, for me, like 1 and 2, but like I think those are still good episodes. I don't know, like, you guys didn't like 5, but I think 5's still a good episode. I don't know.
Which one is 5?
That's the initial Cheryl episode.
Yeah,
I was higher on that one, but
I think that's really liked that
bottom
one.
of my list.
Yeah, I mean, it would be in my bottom half.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the difference between my 13 and my 6 is very little, is what I would say. You know, like, there's ones that they're very good, but then the rest are kind of just good. But yeah, so even if you're like us and didn't find the season altogether that well, and by the way, there are big fans of the storytelling this season. So I do think, like, a lot of people are happy with how it ultimately went, but at the very least, like, the episodes were very good themselves. And I think, like, I think, like, for me, with the show still has like a really, really good show. Like, we're like a step or 2 away from that, you know, like, not that the show is like bad, but it's like good to very good. Like, there's the leap is within range, I would say.
Yeah, we've talked a lot on this podcast about potential stuff that they could have touched upon given the framework of the show. So like that's kind of what
they're going to do, what we think they might have the potential to do.
Yeah. Right. But like, based on what we have and what we know is within reach, like, that's kind of like the disconnect from this being a show that I could say, like, this is the best show on TV. Like, I can't really say that because, like, when I watch, it's like, but we could do we could do other interesting things here that we seem to not be able to do. And so there's just like kind of a hampering there.
I think that's a good point. When you when your main reaction to a big reaction is potential things, then I think that speaks to what we're doing now not being there yet.
Well, it's not like season 1 was really great, but it's not like this show, like this season, like it still showed improvement in areas where we wanted to see improvement. And again, like, this is purely like our opinion. Like, I think that's great that like some people really enjoyed the plot, and again, like, we're you know, like, we're here to be critical, but that doesn't mean that we don't, you know, really enjoy it at the same time. Like, it's a fun ride for me at least. So
yeah, the season was always fun and enjoyable to watch for sure. And like, I prefer the overall package of season 1 more, but there are definitely things in season 2 that improved upon in season 1. I think it's more of just like an overall season thing. That
I think I honestly preferred season 2 a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you and April were talking about that earlier.
That's
true, such a big part of season 1 is just like Gary at his most unlikableness and him convincing Quinn that he's great, and that's like not a fun time. So the fact that they really experimented a lot more with giving characters specific episodes and just like broadening the cast. And while like that does lead to some issues with cohesion between episodes, I think like ultimately like that's such a nice thing to try, and like it's important to try it. And like I commend them for that a lot, because we got a lot of really nice surprises out of, you know, taking on a season that way. And I think like as a whole, that matters more to me than just like a much more specific, you know, narrative through the first season. Because like there are a lot more ups and downs in season 2, I'd say, but they're like some of the hits are way better, and some of the misses aren't like as bad, I'd say personally.
Yeah,
but yeah,
I think that's fair.
I agree with that. Yeah. Took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I think Gary's character, I think Little Cato's character in particular, they stand out a lot in season 2.
And their relationship is just super solid.
It's believable, yeah.
That's what I'm going to look back on this season is the two of them. Yeah. Also Kevin. Okay, so very quickly through the some humor parts of the finale we haven't talked about yet. There's 2 like amazing Kevin scenes, Michelle. The first is Kevin.
Go ahead, tell me. I know.
Kevin like imagines Gary like wanting him in the sparkly dream
That's
sequence.
How he thinks about him all the time. It makes so much sense. Oh, Kevin. And he's like, get off me, go away. Poor Kevin, man.
It was great. And then the second time, this is subverting all of our worst fears with Kevin, is they're like, we need a volunteer to die. And Gary's like, hey, Kevin, I need a quick favor. And then Bolo's like, right? That was my first thought, too. But Kevin isn't life. And Kevin says, hooray, Kevin will never die.
And like, my heart was like having so many experiences because suddenly it was frozen, fear. And then I was like, are you just like trolling me?
Yes.
Kevin will never die, but like you threatened him to be dead at least twice this season, and it hurts every time.
The finale has definitively pronounced Kevin will not die, so take that, Kevin haters. He's here to stay.
Yay!
Yep. Kevin is indestructible.
This is great.
And that's why those frozen Kevins will come back for the season 3 finale.
No.
Yeah, that was a swing and a miss on some of our parts with the frozen Kevins coming back. I'll say that.
Season 3, they'll get them out final.
Okay, we'll get. What if they also drifted into final? What if that was the stinger? Was they drifted in the final space before Bolo closed it, like in the frozen Kevins were there?
Please let that be real.
But that's how season 3 begins.
That's in an alternate like timeline. They actually tried to hold open Final Space with all of the frozen Kevins, and Final Space just took in all of the frozen Kevins, and that's how they're there.
I think we'll see it. Okay, we more Kevin to come in season 3. It's great. I don't know. There's other stuff too, but I think those are the main things. Okay, but Little Cato and Gary. My dad taught me a trick. I did know my other dad. Oh yeah, sure, avocado. Gary. Yes.
Already happening.
Mm-hmm. It's great. Yeah, I don't know. And Michelle, anything else? Final thoughts on the finale?
I feel happier about it now that we've talked. I honestly thought this whole season was very interesting. It definitely kept my attention, even if things didn't quite make sense. At least I really had to think about it for a while. This wasn't easy breezy watching ever, and I feel like that's kind of nice too. I mean, overall, I thought this was a really good season for character stuff. It was a really good season for experimentation. And I mean, I really wonder what the tone of season 3 is going to be at this point. I feel like it's going to be bleaker. I still feel that way, but we'll see.
I would love a really dark season 3.
Me too, honestly.
I would as well.
Because this one was very hopeful, and the first season wasn't as hopeful as this one. I feel like there's got to be a balance.
Yeah, at the very least, some dark elements. That would be nice. April, final thoughts.
I like Michelle feel better now that we've discussed things through, and I enjoyed this season. I'm very confident in saying that. So
yay.
And I've really grown to enjoy Kevin this season.
Grown.
Oh my god!
Yes. So happy! That was one of my as I was watching the finale, I was like, oh, Kevin, I love that he's just kind of Gary's punching bag, but then he doesn't even care, and he just takes, he just brushes it off. And so he's definitely been, a highlight in terms of, the humor this season. So there's that takeaway. But yeah, it was a solid season. So I enjoyed it.
We're already starting to debate who should get nominated for Best Supporting Character from Final Space. Is it Kevin, or Little Kato? That's a tough choice.
That's not fair, because Little Kato's infinitely more likable, but Kevin saved everyone a million times more. That's really hard. That's not fair.
Start the campaigning from Michelle.
Kevin campaign with you.
Oh, thank you. All right.
I love Kevin, but I'm heavily on Little Kato on this list.
Well, Dylan, you're going down.
Going down, Dylan.
I think
Kevin's time in the sun.
Either one, Final Space could win this category. So let's look.
But what about Tribor?
Tribor is also good. I feel like he's a step below these two in terms of strength.
Yeah. I mean, Tribor's
wow,
great,
look at the Tribor stand over here, Alex. So
right?
Converted in the last possible episode.
Wow.
Yeah, because of course I've been a Kevin supporter for like most of the season, so like the Tribor needed to come into the fold eventually.
Yeah, what about Hugh though, Alex, for supporting character? He had a strong season.
I don't think
not even.
I love him. But he had a weak ending to the season, So
he contributes to the fight. Also, another gorgeous part of the night was the fight against evil avocado. Alex, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I feel about the same about this finale after talking about it. I don't feel like my opinion has changed much. Like it's a fine finale, but it definitely has a lot of holes. I didn't feel the same emotions as I did in the season 1 finale. As to overall season, I will say that season 1 has much higher highs, but it also has lower lows. Season 2, I think I can say that it's more of a consistent experience. Season 2. So again, this depends on what you're looking for. I would take season 1 with its lower lows because it had a lot stronger emotional moments for me. But I can understand too if you'd like season 2 because it was more consistent, because even though like it bounces from character to character, but it never feels like there's like a bad episode of the bunch. So like I can understand if you prefer that. Now, and season 3, I am hoping for it to maybe experiment more with tone. I will say that I really enjoyed the season for maintaining its humor. As with season 1, we always talk about like the balance between it being a comedy and it dealing with dramatic story elements. And I think that this season that was a narrative throughout in terms of like struggling with the balance. I think it did the comedy stuff pretty well. And for that alone, like I think it's worth watching. The story stuff was hit or miss, but season 3 offers more opportunities. So we shall see what they do with that season, but it's still a great, funny show. And for that alone, I appreciate it existing.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary from Alex. I agree with most of that.
Damn, Alex. Way to nail
it. I think he nailed it. Yeah, I had a lot of fun this season and had a lot of fun talking about it with you guys. So thank you for being on all these podcasts. And hopefully you guys enjoyed our Final Space coverage this season. Let us know what you thought of the finale, what you thought of our thoughts on the whole season. Leave us a comment, overlyanimated.com, youtube.com/overlyanimated. Come to our Discord to talk about it at overlyanimated.com/Discord. Yeah, that's right. So
you got it.
I got it. It was a fun ride this season. It's probably going to be a little bit for next season because if it got renewed, it probably just got renewed recently. So we'd expect late 2020 for.
That's fine.
That's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll see what Olin says, but it was fun and. Congrats to everyone on the crew for like a really high quality season of television. As like criticisms aside, definitely like a high quality season of television, and once again they pulled off like very high production values on. We cover a lot of shows here. I think Final Space still really stands out.
Final Space always looks so good. I kind of don't understand because I'm sure their budget's comparable to everything else.
I think it might be a little higher, but yeah, it is. It's like this show really
looking.
Like this show like it's a little surprising that this show is like top 3 best looking animated shows on American TV, maybe probably like but it's really is like a really strong feat, and I think this season was even better, like production values wise, and the animation was incredible. Sound design continues to be incredible, stuff like that. So yeah, I would.
Way to go, crew!
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's always like an underreported part of our discussion because we focus on story, but that's like always a given with this show that sometimes it doesn't even stand out.
That's why I always try and point out if it looks really pretty, like the whole fighting on like the glass cube, like that was. Yeah,
no, I'm serious. I think this finale was one of the best looking.
And like Bolo looks cool.
Oh my god!
I would take a ride on Bolo and ride him through the cosmos.
Huh? Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I wouldn't, but
you gotta start writing your own fan fiction in the year we have ahead of us, Alex.
Okay, so
I'm not sure Bolo would be the first character I'd write fanfic about, but
definitely Hugh. You'd be the Hugh and Tribal.
Hugh and Ava smut.
No!
Oh,
I wonder if it exists. The sun joke, though.
Yeah, the sun joke. That was another part. If you enjoyed our coverage, consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, John, a.k.a. Johnny Bravo. And thanks as always to our patron executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Alex, Beatrice, Hugh, Michael, and Needle. Yep, we'll see you guys. I mean, we'll see if there's any other Final Space. Stay tuned to the feed in case there's other podcasts or if there's Final Space as part of end-of-year coverage. In terms of like best shows, best our award shows, stuff like that. We'll see what Final Space can get into there. But we'll see you guys on the other side in Final Space whenever it happens, right? Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. We'll be there. We'll meet you guys there. Thanks.
That was very motivational.
I guess. On that note, bye.
Bye.